So this is part 6 of our evaluation. We're going to be discussing 6 points, and
We're referring back to our planning about how we attract and addressed our audience through our opening sequence.
okay, so the first question is, do you think you have reached your target audience? Yes, we feel we've reached our target audience by having many things in our opening sequence which allows us to be able to reach our target audience. The locations and themes within our target audience allow us to appeal to a specified audience. Aiming towards 16 to 24-year-olds, but more on the older scale, we appeal to a more older, sophisticated, and intelligent audience. Having relatable themes engages our target audience more by being able to understand them more. Aiming towards older ages, they can relate by experience work-like situations and starting a family, etc. We show these all in our opening sequences, so it makes everything more relatable towards them. Whereas if we were only to aim this towards teenagers, it wouldn't be as successful because they haven't experienced most of the things that we are trying to show on open. Although you do get teenagers who are interested in what we were trying to make, so it just does depend on personal preference. But age and experience does play a huge role within the target audience and will determine whether they like it or not. The second question is, what did you include when planning your production that you thought would appeal to your audience? When planning our production, what we thought we would include that would appeal to our audience was firstly mainly the themes and situations that our characters are placed in. We wanted something that was believable but not pushing the boundaries and turning it into more of a dramatic sequence. Keeping it believable but still getting the point across that there's violence within the household really gets the point across in a subtle way. Rather than having lots of violent scenes, making the opening sequence way more dramatic than it needs to be, we showed each theme in our opening sequence in one way or another, making it clear what we wanted to show. The situations we created, we thought would appeal to our audience by firstly, the characters on our opening sequence. They are mainly young adults and are experiencing everything for the first time. The very realistic situations become very relatable by having a businessman who wants to be the very best at what he does. Because he is working so hard and wants to do so well in his job, the work keeps piling up and it's too much for one man to handle. So the pressures of work start getting to him, and because he doesn't know how to cope with it, it starts taking a toll on his home life. The stress created at work affects his relationship with his wife, causing him to start abusing her at home and becoming more violent. When planning this, we wanted to film in realistic locations to make the whole situation look more real. This sequence aiming towards a more middle class audience, we needed nicer locations that you wouldn't originally expect from a normal British social realism film. Using a nice house shows the success and wealth of his job, and having his own private working space shows that he is a very respectable person. Also, filming in a middle class house, it brings you back to reality and shows that they are not the richest of people, but they do live for some luxuries in their life. Another quote someone said was relationship issues. So them being able to pick up on it shows that it's not just common within older people, but it's still something which is very common within teenagers. A lot of teenagers experience very violent relationships, and not even violence, but they just have problems within their relationship. But this shows that they can relate to it, and it's just not something that older people can can have problems with. Okay. The second quote that someone said was, he seems to work in an office, the important job may be modern music, the bassline is catchy. So them understanding that the importance of his job and understanding his work life and saying important job maybe makes it seem like they know the importance of having a job, and you need a job to get somewhere in life and to have money and all that. And also touching on the music, the music is something not it's not aimed towards them. It's not the genre they like. It doesn't even have any lyrics in it. But for them to say it's catchy and to call it modern, it shows the importance of the music and the extreme effects it has. Because when you're watching it, the music is supposed to build up a very intense effect as it goes on, and it gets clearly worked here because it shows an extreme effect. And calling it catchy and modern when it's something that's not really aimed towards them just shows how well it's worked with them. Another quote is, a lot of people have stressful times. So again, the stress of work. This teenager's stress of school, having exams and everything, it's something else they can relate to. It's like stress isn't just not something that happens with adults and work. It can happen to anyone being in school and like the consequences if you don't do your work, you don't get anywhere. So that's another thing. Another thing they quoted on was marriage situation, prostitution, and adultery. I'm not sure how this relates to teenagers, but it shows they understand the themes and they have an understanding of what's going on. So
I think like with cheating, so adultery is kind of like cheating
yeah,
in relationships. Some teenagers may cheat still.
yeah.
I think that's an issue maybe that they picked.
So what our audience thought was original was they thought that the lack of dialogue was, and the lack of dialogue helps create a build up, and it's something you don't usually see. So it allows you to concentrate more. Another thing they said that they thought was original was we used middle class characters, and this is not common in British social realism, but it's something different to watch. And using middle class characters, it allows you to be able to touch on a lot more subjects, and also allows you to film in a lot more places, and again, it allows you to film in better places. So it's just something better to look at visually. And then the next thing was the narrative. And the narrative for us, we both, me and Zara we properly thought about it, and we a lot of the went to our narrative. We was constantly changing it, trying to make it the best thing. So then the narrative for us is something you really have to think about. It's not something that you just sit there and watch. You think about it and you think, oh, what's going to happen next? Does this make sense? Why is he doing this? The next thing are the key scenes / moments in the piece were. So these are some quotes from our feedback again. So when the book's workload is increasing through jump cuts and graphics appearing on the top. So we thought a lot about this because we wanted to make it interesting, different, and also it not only brings attention to the graphics, but it brings attention to the books and the workload. So the two work together very well to gradually build up together. The next thing was going home and grabbing the bottle. We showed continuity here, and it shows that when he gets home, he doesn't care about his wife. He just wants the alcohol and he wants to go to bed, or he wants to drink and go to sleep. So he doesn't really care about his wife as much. And the last quote was when the prostitute knocks on the window and the wife is upset and throws the food away. This is another key moment because, again, it's showing really important facts in it. Like, it's showing two different women. One is a prostitute and one is a good stay-at-home wife. And it's
one who cares so much.
Yeah, and one that... Well, I'm pointing at myself. And the one who just needs money.
Good wife.
Both of these things, they show theme because Zara played the wife and she showed the theme of isolation and just abuse and all that. And I obviously showed prostitution. And it touches on, when we did this, we didn't do it in such a dramatic way. It was like, oh my gosh, like she's naked, she's a prostitute. We did it very
quite
subtly,
way, yeah.
but it still gets
quite classy actually. I think.
Yeah, but it still gets the message across.
Yeah.